We're live, by the way, so keep this riveting talk of Mr. T and Milk going.
We're only 5 minutes into the show and we're way over my head. Good.
Oh, we're not even 5 minutes in. We're about 30 seconds. So.
Oh boy, your crowd must be excited. We hit A team already.
It's gonna put crowd in quotes there. Yeah, they're livid. But
well, it's true. We do a lot of streams and what's the viewing audience? Maybe 10 on some of them, and lower.
Yeah.
Our own stream we only get maybe 5 to 7.
I mean, we'll see where we go. But we are here to talk about you guys' project, Cluster Fudge 2. So I feel like we're off to a great start with the title of that book.
Well, it is the successor to 1. The artwork's better, the story's advancing. Did we come on here for Cluster Fudge 1?
I'm not sure it was that. Have you done another book?
Yeah, we also do Cyclopean as well.
We do the Great
Cyclopean you were on here for, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I love those Great Cyclopean.
Yeah, we were on for the first one.
Well, the good news is Cluster Fudge is the exact opposite of Cyclopean in the sense that they're literally
2 eyes.
night and day. Cyclopean, yeah, that too. But Cyclopean is literally like a Boy Scout, and Cluster is literally, well,
not.
Yeah, he looks like a Boy Scout to the public eye, but he's definitely not. And in issue 2, and I don't know, do you guys want me to start talking about the project?
I mean, give us 1 second to get the intro in proper, just for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
No, this is
you're good. You're good. Usually,
usually
there are a lot more penis jokes at this point.
This is the cold open, which means that this is that time that we ramble while Church gets stuff done that you should have gotten done before we started.
Right, but I drink too much, so there you go.
There is a 6th dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big 2 and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
I almost opened us up with the theme music from Rap Snack's website again, but decided against it. We'll call back to the last show there. Anyway, hello everybody, and welcome to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure. With me, as always, are my trusty co-host Ayrton McCartney and RuneKnight. How are you boys doing?
I mean,
it doesn't matter how you're doing because we're also joined in the virtual studio by 2 very special guests, Chris and Diana of Cluster Fudge 2. You can see on your what now? Oh, that's you, RuneKnight, in the background. Knock that off.
Don't mind me. I was just gonna say I had some random bullshit to talk about, but this is way more important. So proceed.
So we've got Chris and Diana of Cluster Fudge 2, and Cyclopean joining us to talk about their campaign. And how are you guys doing this week? It actually matters.
We're doing pretty good, I think. How are we doing this week, honey?
We're doing well. Chris is battling a cold pneumonia.
Yeah, hopefully it's just a cold, yeah.
But other than that, we're doing good. We've had a nice, relaxing Saturday and, usual stuff on a Saturday.
Yeah, so that means I've been drawing. It's kind of funny because I've been running a fever and kind of dizzy, but I'm still drawing because we have so many little deadlines that are self-set, but I don't want to miss them. So it's kind of funny because we just finished the Great Cyclopean 3 tonight. Well, we, meaning me, and then she gets to look at it tomorrow and edit it again.
Mm-hmm.
But Cluster Fudge 2 is in crowdfund. It's on Indiegogo.
And it is, in fact, a sequel, correct?
Yes, actually, it was the unplanned sequel because I did Cluster Fudge 1 and I was going to leave it on a cliffhanger and just let it go because it was more or less a passion project. I had always wanted to draw something really bizarre. And so I did a really bizarre book and then had 41 backers who were kind of like, yeah, come on, we want to see more. So come to find out, it probably wasn't all 41 because right now, I think we have 13 backers, but
Yeah.
we still have like half the campaign left to do. But so Cluster Fudge 2 came into fruition, and there is a 3 planned because 2 was becoming so long that my editor, who is my wife, made the suggestion to cap it at 50 pages and then put the other 50 pages in the 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Now,
I
as,
thought that
as a
was
mar- as a married man, did you just make the conscious decision that she tells me what to do in life anyway? I might as well let her edit my book,
Well, to be
or
honest with you, and I'm quite proud of this, but to be honest with you, before my wife got involved, I was drawing on napkins and typing paper,
uh-huh.
and she finally handed me an iPad and said, "Here, learn to draw on this." And once she got me doing that, then it was like, "Hey, make a comic." And then before I knew it, that's what I was doing. So she handles all the crowdfunding.
The magic
She
of a
handles
$7 program called Procreate, right?
Yes, actually, that's exactly what I got in. I did try Autodesk. I did try Clip Art Studio, which I also have on my Mac, I guess.
hmm
But Procreate, I just got addicted to it. It works so well with the Apple Pencil. So
Well, yeah, and you just send it right over to Photoshop for retouching. I mean, it's perfect. It's the
yep.
perfect app. I, as a graphic
Mhm.
designer, use it on nearly a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
actually, if you don't have the time to get into Photoshop, you can do a lot in that too. It's a
oh yeah,
nice little image editor itself, and so yeah, my wife got me into it. She handles everything I pretty much do business wise, and I like to think without her, I'd be in a trailer in Florida somewhere, just rotting
Probably.
away.
drawing on the back of postage stamps and napkins,
Yeah.
trying to
S-
form a
Yep.
comic book
Thinking
together.
about it.
Snorting meth off the back of an alligator, like you do
Yeah,
in Florida.
Well,
Right.
well,
And no
I have
offense.
a
Go ahead.
I have a small story for you. So I was told that this interview was happening a while back. I did not, in fact, place in my brain that you were the same guy that had done the Great Cyclopean. But I was linked to Cluster Fudge to have a look at it, and I'm like, And I read the description, I'm like, this is, let's see, monsters, occultism, and government conspiracies. This is relevant to my interests. And I was like, I'm gonna back this. And the only reason I didn't was because I was on my tablet in the other room. So when we came in here, and I'm, putting around the windows and looking at all the things, and we name dropped where the Indiegogo is, and that it's in the description if you're watching on YouTube.
it is
I
in the
clicked it.
description.
Yeah, I clicked on it, I looked at it, and it's like, boom, your day is now $5 happier. That is, there you go.
Thank you, sir. And you know what? I actually recommend that $5 tier for most people because, to be honest, it's more affordable for everybody. That's my favorite thing to back on other people's. But then there are people who love the books, and we definitely love books ourselves as well. So if you get the PDF and then you want the book, we'll have some available for resale after the campaign.
And the cool thing about the PDF is that we are offering the first Cluster Fudge with that. We threw that in because you know what? It gives you a complete story. And
Well, yeah, and PDFs are a dime a dozen, so to speak. So
my
it's
husband wants to give everything away, which makes my job as his business manager very challenging because he wants to make some money. We want to make enough money to pay for the books and stuff, but he likes to also.
Let's be
Well,
let's be
I mean,
honest here. I think all of us as comic enthusiasts love the physical books, but me as someone in my mid-30s reached into my closet to pull out a comic box today, and man, I forgot that they were so heavy.
yeah,
Did you get a hernia trying to pull those out?
No comment. I am a building. I don't suffer from human ailments, you weaklings.
it's
well, it's
it's
kind of
not
funny. Go ahead.
it's not a hernia. It's just a slip support.
Oh, okay.
Right, that.
It's kind of funny you're talking about long boxes because I think I'm finally going to have to invest in a new one. I didn't start collecting comics again until about 2 years ago, and even then, they've all been indies, and if they're not PDFs, then of course I order the books. So now I'm looking at my shelf, and it's just about long enough for my first new long box, and it will be entirely indie because I really haven't bought any Marvel except for a John Byrne compilation. In DC, I haven't purchased either. I've just been pretty much out of the mainstream. So it's kind of exciting to hear you talk about long boxes. I'm like,
Well,
yes, I need one.
I'm
Well,
not
it's-
gonna go, I'm not gonna go into great detail, but my oldest got into a little bit of trouble and has been sequestered to reading as his most enjoyable activity for a little while, being grounded. And I remembered being grounded myself and said if it wasn't for comic books, I wouldn't have gotten by. So I busted out the long boxes to pull some stuff out for him. And I got about 3 in, and I was like, "Boy."
Well,
These things got heavier since I put them in here.
my thing is that yes, I do. I love floppies. I love having physical stuff for a number of reasons, not just because comics are great. And
Rune prefers them floppy.
but I'm also what we colloquially call in the business a poor bitch. So I have to very carefully measure. It's like, okay, I got bills to pay and I got food to get. What can I afford? And having a $5 flat, you pay it, you get it, no muss, no fuss option is great because then I get to support projects that interest me, and I get a little something in my price range. You know, it's like I can always spare almost $5 on demand,
Right.
so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, everything you hit on there is exactly why I think I do it too, because getting involved in our own crowdfunding, you run into people all the time who are crowdfunding, and you want to support everybody, but at some point,
Yeah.
well, like my wife said, I like to give everything away. I also like to buy everything.
Yeah.
So she has
have to give 'em a
she has to
budget.
balance that, and
Mhm.
one of the things I've been pretty much given, you know, the go ahead with almost always PDF tiers of anybody's. She'd rather see a PDF than, oh honey, I just spent another $50 on one book.
Let's
What did you do?
let's just be honest here. You can bury the PDF away in a folder and she'll never find it.
And
However, I bank account, so that doesn't work. So
if it makes you feel better, I just spent $116 ordering ammunition online.
Well-
So
Well,
That
long
does
ago
make
when
me feel better.
long ago and far away when dinosaurs walked the earth, as my mom tells it, my parents were young adults with very limited funds and a child to take care of. So my mom would like give my dad $20 and be like, "Hey, I need you to go to the store. I need you to get milk, eggs, bread, and come back." On the premise that he would just come back, right? And he would go and he'd get those things, but he would also stop at the local game box and like bring home dice or a packet of character sheets or some inexpensive pamphlet. And my mom was consistently like, "No, that was our money for the month, you goofball."
Now,
Yeah,
now
I think
just,
that may be why Diana keeps me on a short leash.
Sound
Well,
terrible.
when I say that, I should point out
Not
also it's a
terrible.
leash. I mean,
Yeah, come on now.
I'm well aware of my issues with money, so I always like, okay, honey, can I do that? Is that within my
But
budget?
I just want to put that out that if he really wants something, he gets it. He doesn't go without. He makes it sound like I'm sitting here going, "Yeah, you can't get that."
Well, my
it's
mother
al-
is.
it's always easier to ask forgiveness than permission, though.
This is true.
Right?
But my mother is 69. She is much beloved of the gospel, and she and I often have light arguments because she'll think she has the money handled, and she doesn't because she's 69. And it's like then we talk about me, and I'm bad at math, but money terrifies me, so I don't screw it up. I get the money done right. Always.
Let's be fair, Rune. Once you hit your 60s, you kind of slip back into the past every now and again, and you're like groceries. $50 should handle that for the month, right? That's more than enough.
Right. Well, I mean, especially if you're living on cat food. But
Yeah.
my mom.
We'll just eat ramen and broth all week. It's fine.
Well, I mean, interesting side note: things that our guests never knew they wanted to know. My mom's other caregiver finally got fired.
Okay.
Finally, and we all go, yay! So we're working through new caregivers to get the right one. And the first one they sent is this lovely woman who's a year younger than my mom, and she's Guamanian, right? And neither
She's what?
she's from
Romanian.
Guam.
Oh, from
Oh,
Guam.
Guam.
And neither of those things should really matter, except she can't see. I think she has trouble hearing.
I'm literally
And if
sitting
she-
here thinking about a blind leading the blind joke, and you go and fucking
Right. And she apparently can't, because she can't read, rather than ask questions, she fills in gaps. My mom sent her to go grocery shopping. She did, in fact, bring back all the stuff that was on the list. She did not, however, bring it back as we would have brought it, which is fine, right? Except, well, I'm perfectly fine with getting a quart of $5 Breyers ice cream from the store when I wanted a pint. My mom and I both are, like, falling all over ourselves, holding our heads, because for some reason she saw ice cream and thought that meant get my mom a quart of $16 Haagen-Dazs.
Oh no!
Oh God.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know.
Oops.
I mean, you don't want to cheap out on the ice cream.
Yeah, but you get the self-serve pint if you gotta for $10. You don't get Jesus that much. What am I supposed to do with that much vanilla bean ice cream?
Eat it. You're gonna eat it. That's what you
Yeah.
do.
Well, I mean, okay.
The best ice
Look, I
cream
can
you're ever gonna eat.
I mean, if you insist, I can totally go Macho Man Randy Savage. I can just get hopped up on methamphetamine and ice cream. It'll be cool.
That's
Macho Man
exactly
didn't
what
need
I'm
the meth.
suggesting.
Oh my gosh. You guys are silly.
So
let's talk about this book.
I'm scrolling through the campaign.
So I guess,
And
long story short, PDFs are good.
Yeah. As good as $16 ice cream, ladies and gentlemen. I'm scrolling through the campaign and I see this final teaser page, right? And what it appears... That's you, Run.
Yep.
What it appears
My beloved's mother and matter.
Is that you have, I guess, the titular character...
Yes.
Getting his head chopped in two, and he catches it in what appears to be his left hand, and then proceeds to slide his head back on seamlessly.
Yes. Now, that is actually a character known as the Bookmark, and he is in a spiritual situation where he's holding Cluster away from death. And what that page is showing you is where the Reaper takes his, as you can see, his head and shaves it in two. And he just simply reattaches it because he doesn't really need it. It's more or less for his own appearance and whatnot. And it's the kind of power that the Reaper has to deal with, which is why the Reaper becomes involved. The story gets rather, I guess, complicated, but it's really not. It's just that
it's complicated to explain.
Well, it's easier read
when you
than
get
spoken.
Down to try to explain.
Right.
The overarching part of the story is pretty.
Well, yeah. The thing about it is, though, this is where so the Bookmark is involved in the afterlife situation for Cluster, and he wants to put him on trial for all the souls that Cluster has tortured over the last 40 years.
Like you do.
The Reaper is going to help because even though he's neutral, he's kind of forced. He can't get to the soul until he gets, the Bookmark to enable him to have the soul. And in it all, it's still not done because the Reaper is not alone. He has other Reapers, and basically the Master Reaper will show up. Well, the demons, if you read Cluster Fudge 1, and I don't know if you guys have, but there are demons that are following in the situation as well, who Bookmark wants to...
with Cluster.
Right, well, they used to mess with Cluster, but now the Bookmark wants to use them as the jury for this trial, and that's why he needs the Reaper, because the Bookmark has a limited reach where the Reaper can go out and find the demons and bring them back.
So I like to explain it. The book has different realities. You have like a spiritual reality. You have the reality of like Cluster and what's happening right then with him
in the physical world.
And you have
there is another aspect that nobody is even really thinking yet, and because it really in issue 1 it was only a few pages, but it becomes more in depth in issue
Well, we
2.
have the Silver Scribe.
Right, and that's the Silver Scribe who's actually supposed to be picking up the bookmark.
He's from space. He's in space.
Yes.
So, like when we talk about it, and then
Any
people are
chance he
listening-
travels around on a wave board of sorts?
No, he looks like the Silver Surfer. And he was, of course, he was naturally inspired by him because I love the Surfer. But the Silver Scribe.
I'm also a
Travel
fan of Joe
around in a ship.
Satriani.
Yeah. The Silver Scribe actually travels around in a ship who has an IA that becomes quite important in the story. And I can't say too much until issue 3 comes out because there's a whole bunch of little surprises in there. But there's a whole space element involved, up to and including a transforming ship that will turn into a mecha robot. And as you can probably guess, as the name implies, it's a cluster fudge. It's like basically the script has every little thing I've ever wanted to draw in my life, and I somehow try to make it, a cohesive story. And
It is actually.
Yeah.
it is,
really
but
good
it's
stuff.
You dump the toy box out and you figure the plot out later. I mean, I know how that goes.
Yeah.
well, no, the plot was actually there. The funny thing is, though, it was something that like I never actually thought would get made. I've had several ideas that my editor / wife has shot down in the past, and I never thought she'd let me play with this one. And she was just like, you know what? Go ahead, give it a shot. And so,
Well, the name, I was like, you want to, what is the title of this book? And me and the kids were looking at him like,
well, I've gotten so
Oh
much
my
heat over the name
God.
because, like,
seriously? And
can
then
you
we-
drop F-bombs on your show?
Yeah.
Because
I've already dropped like 4. So
Yeah, everybody was like, cluster fudge. That sounds like elementary school kid thing, not cluster fuck, And I was like, well, I didn't want to put that on the title. But ironically, it is kind of funny because that is exactly my world. So it's kind of like I was
Well,
still
yeah.
censoring myself.
I was actually gonna bring that up because I find it hilarious that it says cluster fudge and then
Yeah.
at the bottom it says mature readers only.
Exactly.
And
It's
Well-
a whole conundrum. Like,
it's
what?
a bit bad to say fuck now, isn't it?
Well, look, if you guys are actually watching the stream, the panel that has been stuck from the Indiegogo page is this scene in which a Grim Reaper looking guy
We've already covered
decapitates a
that while
dude.
you were on your call.
Okay, cool. I was getting lasagna. Today's show is brought to you by Mom's Lasagna. I'm having it, and you're not.
Not to be
The thing
confused
is
with
like-
mom's spaghetti.
Oh yeah, I mean they're very closely related. But no, my point is that your editor can't be that bad about content because she's letting you have a comic in which a guy is graphically decapitated and still alive with blood. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's actually one of the nicer panels.
It's got a lot of naughty pictures in there too, I think.
Well, yeah, of course, they're not. So when I draw, obviously there's nudity involved, especially if you've read issue 1, you'll know that. But I don't draw like soft porn. Like there's no actual point where you can look and go, wow, his thing is with her thing and they're doing the thing. But there's a lot of implications,
Well-
innuendos.
I mean, if you did the thing, you'd get sued by Marvel.
Yeah.
Well,
There's enough there, so like I keep there's definitely enough there that I wouldn't give it to a 10-year-old, but it's not so nasty that I'd be like, don't show my mother. I would show my mother this book.
Right.
it's like early '90s comics with the comic code chain taken off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of funny you say that because that really was part of my comic book era when I was into them.
Mhm.
Well, that's the thing that's the comics I grew up with.
Hallelujah.
That's why I was drawn to this because like I'm a big fan. I'm the person that's like, oh yeah, Midnight Suns, and then I see that video game Marvel's doing, and I'm like, no, Midnight Suns doesn't have Wolverine and Iron Man. That's not the Midnight Suns.
That's the next marketing trend, right? They just put names with names and hope that people buy them.
Right. But I actually read the Midnight Massacre, and I was a big fan of Blade before it was a film, and because I remember that in between the film and his 70s outing, there was this period where he wore a leather suit and had a katana and fought vampires and looked cool.
You got,
So
you got-
since you mentioned it, I have to tell you, my
real
son's
quick,
middle name is Blade.
Sweet.
Yeah,
And he was named after the vampire. His first name is actually Jace, named after the Wheeled Warriors, if anybody remembers that short-lived
I do.
Oh yeah,
So his name is Jace Blade.
we
And I always thought that was the coolest name.
we've got a commendation in the. All right, Joe, that's two.
No, I'm still here.
move the cell phone away from the microphone.
It is. It's on the other end of my desk.
That's your gate then. But we got Cross Comics in the comments. Say that 3 times fast. Giving Cluster Fudge 1 a Cluster Fudge 1 was awesome. So there you go. There's a
awesome.
ringing
Thank you,
endorsement
Cross Comics.
from the creator of the Canadian Shield. There.
But as I slip away to go feed my mother so that she'll stop bothering me, just give her cat food and go away. The lore of my family has it. My father wanted to name me Speed Racer, and my mom said no, and that's why I ended up being named after my grandfather.
My dad wanted to name me Thor or Axel, and my mom said no. That's how I got Ayrton.
I think your mom missed out.
I have been long since trying to convince someone that I know, anyone really, just anyone in particular, to name their child, regardless of gender, Mr. Bubble as their first 2 names.
I mean, Mr. Bubble is good.
All right, Church. If I ever knock up a chick, I got you.
Okay,
well, look,
and then
Mr. Bubble's
we'll
good. We all know the best name is Max Power.
No. What you don't understand, Rune, is we're going to put Ayrton's child through medical school, so that when they come out, they will be Dr. Mr. Bubble.
Does that mean we're also going to send them into the military so they can be Sergeant Dr. Mr. Bubble?
Corporal Sergeant Mr. Bubble, or Corporate Sergeant Mr. Bubble Dr. Dairy. I don't know.
Well, you can be ordained over the internet now, so he could be Pastor, Doctor, Sergeant.
See how much fun this could be, guys.
Well,
don't worry. Like I said, I got you.
Hey, I've always been a fan of the movie Airplane. By the way, have I introduced Over and Under? I'm gonna go take care of this, or this will never end.
All right, so back to you guys. Now that we've completely derailed your thought process,
How are you?
General Bubble,
so-
that's correct.
Oh, actually, I'm looking at the page now too.
Yeah.
Couple of things to note. That's a new cover for issue 1, and it's the first traditional art I've drawn in years. We were on another show, Comic Related Madness.
Yeah.
And right, Pops and Richness there were emphatic that I should do some original art. So that's why we also
original art.
right. By original, yeah, I meant paper and pencil.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the $300 tier, which no one's purchased, and I'm not too concerned one way or the other because I'm a big original art guy. But that's that creation there. So I actually turned that into the cover because I liked it, and yeah, it's kind of special for us. That's why I mentioned it.
We have a variant. Who's a New Hampshire guy.
Yep, Quibix is actually like a super horror comic artist. Like he basically goes to conventions and makes commissions just drawing monsters and stuff. And I asked him if he'd want to do a cover, and so he went ahead and did that. And basically,
how many faces are we looking at here? I count 8, but I feel like there are more that I missed.
How many what?
Faces.
Oh, in that drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's easily 8, but there are more hidden. Like, it's hard for me to tell you. This is what actually started the whole Cluster Fudge thing. Is I love to draw these surrealistic kind of just blend stuff together.
So you had fun experimenting with drugs in college, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, actually, this was happening when I was like as young as like 13. I started drawing this kind of weird stuff. And that was pre-drug, and except for the stuff my mom was feeding me.
Can you give me some of the air from your hometown? I want to run some tests. Maybe a sample of the tap water too.
It's funny because in Mass they have legalized marijuana, and there's an old toy toy factory down the road from us that they converted into a furniture factory. And now it's a big pot growing place. So when you drive by there in the right time of the month, it smells like you wouldn't believe. And
that kind,
oh
not
yeah,
that
well,
kind.
if it was smoke, you would, but you
Yeah,
could smell the
yeah,
plants. There's no
yeah.
doubt what they're doing there.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there. I would totally believe. I'm familiar with the scent of that particular
Yeah. Well, now
particular
everybody in the
substance.
town is. You should see the town meetings. There were tons of complaints the first year.
Then the tax revenue started coming in.
That's exactly what
Oh,
happened.
yeah,
You're
and
right.
everybody's
Yes.
happy. Complain.
Yeah. Well, that and it actually kind of lowered crime around here because they couldn't afford real drugs. Everybody was, but now they're all going to the places, you know.
Right.
Well, actually, the way it works is dispensaries actually put drug dealers out of business by beating them at the price point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not here in Michigan. We have
No.
Really?
we have more drug dealers here because the taxes on recreational marijuana here are so outrageous that it's still so much cheaper to just go through a drug dealer.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, Ford was the last thing that Michigan got right. Even that was pretty shit. wasn't
Well,
it?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Wait, you mean there's no Lion fans here?
yeah, 16% on top of the 6% sales tax.
Wow.
Oh, I'm a huge
That's a
Lions
lot.
fan, especially when they're playing a team that I like.
You know, it's been forever since I've watched soccer.
I like you guys.
You might want to retract that statement.
Yeah.
Not yet. I'm still liking it.
Oh,
So so like my cold medicine is that wearing off again. So somebody else talk because I need to breathe.
All right.
Oh,
So I actually have a question for Diana. What's kind of the I'm blanking on the word. What's it kind of like being the editor and business manager for your husband? Like, what's kind of the dynamic there between the two of you from your point of view?
Dear God. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not. Chris has they now call it high functioning autism. He was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which now they classify as high functioning autism. So he is
She did that because I
very
take great
quirky.
offense.
I'm not high functioning autism. I am an Aspen. I'm a true. Okay, whatever. Dude.
So-
Anyway, that gets factored into this whole process because
Okay.
he thinks very differently than many neurotypical people that I know. He has some different, I don't know, like just different ways of communicating that I don't always understand. So it's always a journey. He's laughing at me. He's glaring at me.
I love how diplomatic you're being with this answer.
you're being very diplomatic by saying, "Man,
That's
he's
because she
really
knows how to
bad at
handle
socializing."
She knows totally how to handle me in every way, so she's saying it in a way for me.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife just tells people I'm an ass.
Yeah.
But so as far as like the editor, like, you know, in the first year, I was like, oh, honey, everything is great. Oh, it looks lovely. Yes. Oh, that's a cool picture. And then he's like, you have to be honest with me. I'm like, oh, please don't make me be honest with you. Because he doesn't take criticism very well. But then I'm like, all right, dude, you want to make this official. We want to make this a business. And I'm going to just have to bite the bullet and be, you know, honest. So yeah, do the editorial of his. Oh, and let me just throw this in. Prior to Chris creating his very first comic, I never read a comic book in my life. Was never into comic books. I'm called a newbie. Is that what you called me? A noob? Newbie? Nerd?
Normie.
Normie, yeah, that was
Normie.
She still hasn't even gotten it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you guys know what a normie is, but apparently I am definitely.
we do.
Okay,
We
so
do.
I'm like the dictionary walking version of a normie. And here I am editing a comic book for my Asperger's husband. So it is an adventure. It's a learning experience. I myself am in school for creative writing and English major. My
nice.
my background for many years has been in the clinical field as an occupational therapist and behavior, registered behavior tech. So I work with children who have autism. I've been doing that for many, many years. And it just happens that I married somebody who was on the spectrum. And it's like my whole life is like that. But
Well,
I
her
digress. So,
daughter, my stepdaughter, is also Asperger's, so it's
yeah,
kind of funny
I'm like
because
a
she's
magnet
attracted.
So you have a type.
yes,
Yes, she does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as an art guy, and hi, I'm back. You don't always like it, but you frankly need somebody that can be honest with you, though, because one of the problems that I always had when I was doing my little scribbles was you show people your stuff and you want the real interpretation so you can get better. And people are just like, oh, that's so awesome, either because they can't do it, or they don't want to hurt your feelings. They want to be encouraging, and they don't put together that getting only encouragement, unless you're like a super genius who's already the best, isn't actually useful. We actually need negative criticism to help us learn.
In order to get better. And
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. So like the second and third year now, I'm just like, dude, that head looks like a horse's face. Those do not look legitimately like a woman's boobs. You need to fix that. What is God happening with her butt? What
So,
do you think? Like,
does he-
I'm like,
I feel like
Does he ask?
I said
Does he
all
ask
of
you to
those
model
things to the
for
girl
him?
I took to
no,
prom.
my God, no.
Hey,
But,
so hey, you asked a good question there, but let me tell you, it's been weird. So I started drawing women, seriously in the Cluster Pledge book because that's where nudity appeared. And so she's coming home, and I have like 4 or 5 naked women, like
On his thing,
my
right?
in my search history on my monitor, bikinis, and I'm like, honey, look, I'm doing research.
And all
it's-
the guys I hear that like, yeah, sure he is.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing when I was studying the human form. I was like, well, women are hard to draw. I need women to work from, and I don't have like a model. What do I do? And it's like, well, you get gentlemen's magazines or like Sports Illustrated, because those are people in their physical peak. They're at the best of what they do, right?
Yeah. Nope,
And then it's like, Joe, is that a stack of Playboys? It's like, no, not really. I mean, yes, it is, but it's not what you're thinking it's for.
Right.
I did something kind of similar when I started going through puberty and found my dad's medical school textbooks. It's a little bit different, but
Ayrton, those were for forensics. Seek help.
I'm a doctor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's always a funny thing because I'll come in like, and I work later shift, so I don't get home till like 6:30 or so. And he's been home. It's like really, I'm working on a new woman like figure, and I need like I don't even bat an eye. Like not, have a pretty solid relationship. I'm like, honey, it's okay. I get it.
Well, it's
But
pretty
one
solid to
funny
the point where
thing
we're
was-
honest like that.
So he's working on the Great Cyclopean 3, and he has Cyclopean on his back. He's like a scene that he's drawing. The Cyclopean's laying down. He's been knocked out or whatever. And he put a bulge, like a guy's bulge. I just looked at him and I said, "In your dreams, buddy, that does not look normal."
oh, that's why you DM me on Twitter. That's why you DM me on Twitter for that selfie you wanted me to take. Okay.
So she made me fix his bulge because she didn't like the way it was bulged.
It was just too like out of proportion. It didn't look like a normal bulge. It looked like a funny bulge. It looked like a picture.
Yeah, but
Look,
she has no problem telling me like those are not.
Yeah.
Those don't look like
Look.
tits.
Look,
He's the Great Cyclopean, not the Great Triclops.
right.
So yeah, and the text part of it, like when he writes, okay, and I think this is really true for any writer. You know what you're saying. You're writing away like, oh, this is great. Then you have somebody read it, and you're like, what were you taking before you wrote this paragraph? Like, he's terrible with spelling. I have to always look at his spelling and his punctuation and things like that. But the thing that we do, I think, and I think a lot of people may do this, but when I edit his books,
No, most people don't do this. This
I
is
don't
unique.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's or not, but I always edit on a Sunday morning. I make a nice breakfast for us, and we're sitting there, and I'll read the book out loud. because when you're reading it out loud, you really get so much more than just quietly
But
reading
she's
it to herself.
no, she makes it sound like she puts it on like she just monotone it and reads it in monotone or something.
Mhm.
No, she acts out the book.
Oh yeah, if it's
Oh,
a
she
guy-
goes full. She goes full audiobook.
Yes, and she
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
with the
it's
tone.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm the big bad guy, and I'm here.
But it gets me into the story. You know what I'm saying? Like I want.
Can we get a sample of this of a dramatic reading?
I recorded it once, and I actually put it into a video,
Oh my god!
and she almost killed me because I had a promo video for Cluster Fudge 1, in fact.
Yeah.
And she read this part where he called the suicide hotline and got in trouble.
Yeah.
And she read it, and then I put it in the video, and then everybody was like, "That wasn't very funny," because like I had him complaining to suicide hotline to get help committing
Because
suicide.
he wanted to kill himself.
I think that sounds kind of funny.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of stuff
I
to
found
people
out though,
there.
suicide is a sensitive topic,
It's
and
a definite.
so like I probably shouldn't. It's not bad to have it in the story, but I probably shouldn't have used it as one of the marketing ploys.
No, he shouldn't have. He
That's-
did not
that's
do that
fair.
with you guys. That was not. And I told him, I said, you need to be careful. Yes, for you it's funny, and I can understand the humor in it. But there are so many people out in the world that it has affected them. So that was kind of, when Chris does things on his own like that, and he can sometimes get himself.
Yeah, if you
in
follow
trouble.
our Twitter and you see one of these like bizarre like rants,
Dear God, I'm at work going, I'm gonna kill him. I'm just gonna kill him.
it's me. It's definitely me with it going off like that.
So I don't know if that answered your question or not. But
In matter of point, from traditional publishing, having someone read your work, especially reading it aloud back to you, is actually one of the things that they do and they suggest when you're in development. Like the really successful husband-wife writing teams will do that. They'll read each other's work as a slush pile before it ever gets sent to a professional editor. Well, because the thing is that when you write it and you read it back to yourself in your brain, because you only read like every third word, you fill in your own gaps. You already know the context of what you're trying to say. You need someone else to read it who doesn't know what you want. And if it's supposed to sound right, then you actually do. You want to hear it read back, because then if they have trouble reading it, like if they stumble over a certain set of words or a certain paragraph, that's what needs revision right there.
And if you guys recall, I had never read a comic book in my life. I had no idea how to read one.
Right.
I'm like, where do I go from this point?
Well, you know what was funny? She actually taught me
Dear
how to
God.
letter better, because I was going under the general old rule of you read everything in the panel, then you go to the next one, very left to right, up and down.
Yeah.
And I
I
found with her
"What are you
reading,
doing?"
she would like miss entire sections or corners of text. But then she taught me indirectly how to like lead the reader's eye to the next box, and to the next caption, to the next balloon.
Yeah.
So that there wasn't like some weird balloon off in the left-hand
field. I'm
corner
like,
or
is
something
that
that she missed,
When
you
am I
know?
supposed to read this line, honey? I don't, because it'll fit anywhere,
Well,
stuff like that. So
and that's actually a bit of value, because even with Marvel or DC comics, occasionally I'll read things and then like read a panel or two and be like, wait, that didn't make sense, and then start back over and figure out how it's supposed to lead, because they have it set so weird.
Well, I wish that
maybe
asshole.
she should give seminars.
I was gonna say, I wish that asshole Dillard was here. Hi, Dillard. We love you wherever you are. Because he's an art guy, and he sometimes has podcasts or gatherings while he's working, where he'll talk with people about the value of art versus writing, because it's a huge debate right now. Are comics a visual medium with words, or are they a word medium with visuals? Right?
You know the answer to that, right?
Both?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Right. But the thing is that the question keeps coming up. Do you need a writer? What purpose does a writer serve? And I'm trying to explain. It's like, well, look, writers can structure what the artist envisions, because the artist can draw it, but the artist can draw it, but they might not be able to comprehend it, and it's very difficult to explain. And it's like, no, it's exactly this. It's exactly this right here, because you're talking about the scripting, and you're talking about how through the process of you learning script and you hearing feedback, you put together new and better ways of doing things. That's called tradecraft. That's how you get good at what you're doing.
Oh, honey, you're good at this.
I never knew that. I'm very excited. I start back at school. It's an online college, but it's SNHU, which is out of New Hampshire. And my very first class that I'm taking is all about publishing and editing. Well, not my first class, but my first class this semester. So I'm really psyched about that. I personally love writing poetry. And my dream is to be able to finish up my book and have either my husband or my daughter illustrate it, but we'll see how that goes.
I have to say something.
Either one of them like poetry.
But can I throw this out there? I have met some artists who are great storytellers and they don't need a writer for anything. I've met some artists who, if they didn't have a writer, you would have nothing but a pinup.
Right.
Maybe every page would be a pinup. Like, God bless them, but there are some artists, and they know who they are. They need a writer. And then there are in-betweens. I kind of think I'm an in-between. I can use a writer, but I can kind of fake it, and I'm still learning, so I believe I'm becoming...
I think you've always... You write.
Yeah, I just don't like taking credit for it,
No, he's a decent writer.
Well, what's kind of interesting about that, from a music standpoint, because that's my creative outlet, is my old band many years ago is I can write music and compose, but I can't write lyrics. And a friend of mine who is a keyboard player who eventually joined my band, she wrote poetry, and I happened to be reading some, and is like, I'm reading it with like a rhythm and a melody and stuff. And so I took like 8 of her poems and turned them into a bunch of songs. And so,
because in my last class, my last poetry class, my professor and a couple of my classmates said the same thing, that it'd be a good lyricist. They said, like, your poems have a lot of really good rhythm to it. So it's awesome that you're using somebody's poetry to create music.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing with like writing and art. When you find kind of that synergy between those two different creative mediums, you can come up with some really cool stuff.
Absolutely.
So is the plan, like, in 4 years when you get your diploma, you're going to start an imprint called Cyclopean Comics?
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
No, so she's already gone out. We have the Hero Shack Press LLC.
Yeah.
The Great Cyclopean is the current flagship book. Cluster Fudge is my side project that just kind of grew out of one issue.
It was during COVID when it came to be.
Right.
Like when the country...
The COVID comics.
Once the 3rd issue is done, I think that's going to be it. It could go 4 issues, but I really think it's going to go 3. And then that should take us right into next year when, it's all Cyclopean for at least that year. And I may do a side issue for Halloween. I've done the 24-hour comic now 2 years in a row, so I'll do that for sure. We're
also working on the Kidclopean, which is Cyclopeans, Great Cyclopean stories. I'm working on those for the younger elementary school kids, like when Peter, that's the Great Cyclopean's first name, when he was in school, what did that look like? What, hardships, what fun things did he get into? So I'm working on those
in the Great Cyclopean, we like a backup story where, as a child, Cyclopean is in school and he's got some crazy classmates because they all go to a school which the military runs for special students.
Yeah.
And they deal with a beehive, which actually ties into the current villain that he faces in issue 3.
Oh, please let me know when you guys get that rolling, because I would love to get a couple issues for some of my nieces and nephews.
Yeah, that's one thing my wife and I talk about a lot is you've got some really great properties out there for children. Dogman comes to mind.
Yes.
But most major publishers kind of miss the mark, and they don't realize that the way that comics succeeded for so long was in capturing the children audience and then growing with them, and then capturing the children audience every generation and growing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because what they actually want is they want mommy and daddy's money, but they don't actually want the children to be fans. Because they're like, those dumb kids don't know what they want. but we're going to make them buy this thing. And it's like, yeah, well, that works for Spider-Man because the parents have been telling their kid how cool Spider-Man is for 20 years. But that doesn't work for, like, a new character if it's something so edgy and dark that it has no appeal to a young child who isn't allowed to read it because the parents see it and go, no.
Exactly. And that's one of the challenges that we have met, especially at, like, some of the Comic-Cons we go to. Honest to goodness, the kids are, like, gravitate. They see we have a giant Great Cyclopean, like, poster pinup guy, like,
He's a
cardboard
6-foot
thing.
stand-up.
Right? And we put him next to us, and the kids, because we watch the kids' faces, they're like, parents walk right by us. The kids are like pointing, but Mom.
Yeah, the parents are dragging him by the hand.
Because they want to go to, like, the Marvel and the DC, and I get that. I mean, that's what they know, you know.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of work cut out for us. We are attending the Kids Con in Maine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that con. It's really geared towards. So we will be bringing the Great Cyclopean up there.
Just the Great Cyclopean.
We were not bringing the Great Cyclopean.
It's so weird when we do a convention, though, because we have to separate Cluster Fudge from Cyclopean from Last of the Reaper. Yeah. So it's like, this is the kid side, this is the adult side.
You know what you need? You know, to get those kids to stop running over to Marvel and we'll stop at your table? You don't just need a 6-foot-tall Great Cyclopean cutout. You need a 6-foot-tall Great Cyclopean punching bag. Like either an inflatable or like an actual one of those slightly reinforced sort of spongy stand-ups.
Yeah.
You know, so kids can just run up and, like, punch the Great Cyclopean, because he's a big guy, he can take it.
What I often do is I have a wheel,
wait.
wheel. What?
You guys need to understand, she puts props out.
Yeah.
So year
Sweet.
one, my first series was called Hero Shack Sandbox. So she put out a little sandbox, an 8x8.
Yes.
Sandbox, and they sat there with the Japanese meditation rake and all these kids stopped to play with it. Last year was In Search of Heroes, or the last year we went on a convention, you know, before COVID. So she puts a wheel out with all the heroes on the wheel and starts having kids spin for free items.
Yep.
It's
nice.
Like crazy.
Yep, and that wheel, I'm telling you, is like a magnet, because what happens is, in the Sandbox too, what happens is the kids want to come to the table, parents are like, all right, kid, let's do it. While they're playing, Chris and I get to talk about the books.
What I'm hearing is that you whatever you're currently doing for a living, I know you said you worked with kids with learning disabilities and things of that nature. As noble as that is, you should quit that job right now and start giving seminars on how to write comics and do marketing, because the people who do those things for these companies are absolutely clueless, and you nailed it right out of the gate.
Well, I don't know how often you guys watch our show, because, you know, you got lives, you're doing things, but one of the conversation points that comes up, something that I personally am very grumpy about, because I'm a grumpy little man, is I have done searches. I've actually bit the bridle and said, okay, let's go do it. Let's go apply to the big boys, because no balls, no blue chips, you know, courage favors the bold. Let's do it. And what I found was that the big two and their peers either only offer ad space, like Image. Bring us a full book, bring us your team, you get to be in our ad space, how nice for you, we get a cut. Well, that's not what I want. And then you look at DC or Marvel. DC says, okay, you can work for us, but you have to come take our classes at your expense. Right? Come learn how to write the DC way, and then maybe we'll let you write for us for real. Right. Marvel says, if we've heard of you, we'll approach you. Which means the only way to get their eyes, the only way to contact them, because they don't have any open submissions anymore. I'm not saying open acceptance, I'm saying submissions. You can't send them work and have them look at it. The only way to get noticed by Marvel now is to have an in with somebody in nepotism, or to work the circuit at your expense, going to every convention with your little cachet of stuff, presumably art, because they're not going to stop and read your script.
Exactly.
Right? To maybe one day get to sit near a phone and have them call you. This is antithetical to the community. This doesn't encourage new talent to seek you out, and it certainly doesn't encourage new readers to approach you. This is a buy what we give you, Claude, perspective, and that's very bad.
Right. No, I agree. And again, I'm coming at this market totally new. I don't have any baseline, so to speak. Like, I have no idea. I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make our table so inviting. These kids are going to stop. And I'm very energetic, and I have kids and all kinds of kids, and I just love talking to people, and we're just going to do it. And my poor husband's going, oh, dear God, this is not what a comic book table. Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, it was very successful.
Amazing, just sitting there with their little, their little backdrop and their books, and they're sketching away, and like nobody stops.
Well, I will tell you, she
funny.
has made for me to be at a convention because as an artist, particularly in the beginning, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was very, I'm a bold guy. I just like I'm like, if it's a stick figure, but I'm proud of it, I will put that stick figure on a poster and go, somebody buy it.
Hey, it's got your name on it. If you get famous one day, that's worth money. Done.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But like, and I'm way beyond that, of course. But with her there, setting up the table with the wisdom and intelligence.
Listen, guys, you should see us at a Comic-Con. It's like, dude, don't even get him. Honey, why don't you go take the business cards and go make friends?
Yeah.
Go and
But they would think I'm crazy, except then they see her and they're like, okay, she's got a plan.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that in your little carry case, you've got a lunchbox with some juice, like some Tang and some Wonder Bread, and you're like, you come back for lunch and you just let him go.
Actually, it's Slim Jims and Mountain Dew, but yes.
Breakfast of Champions right there.
The thing is that I am, you can't see me. Church and Ayrton have seen me. I am a 39-year-old gothy metalhead with graying hair, right? I am basic, but on the inside, I am a big kid. And I can just imagine that if I got to go to a convention, as unlikely as that is, and the Great Cyclopean's table was there, even if I am not so enthusiastic as to jump into that sandbox, right? I would at least stop and go, oh, wow, they have a sandbox, and I'd want to know more. Because it's so weird in my brain that you would have just a sandbox and like little spinner fidgets and shit.
Listen, the sandbox only came because I heard sandbox. I'm like, I'm going to go to Hot Lobby. I'm going to get a little sandbox and get it.
So when I first came up with the idea of Aeroshack Sandbox, it was supposed to be like a concept of software where you could do anything. So I crammed all my characters into this book, and I had stuff happen, even to the point where like I did a parody of the Fantastic Four in the story and all this weird stuff.
So much. We look at it now.
And she heard Sandbox, and she didn't think software. She didn't think comics. She thought
know it was a computer
literally
thing
Sandbox. So like here she is, and she puts out this Sandbox.
Chris was
and
so
I'm
mad
like,
at me, guys.
Actually, it was two of them. I made her get rid of one when she put the wheel up.
It's like, what are you doing? This is embarrassing. I'm like, shut up.
I mean, I didn't know Sandbox was a computer term either, so don't feel bad.
Yeah. But she totally took it and made it into a success. So when I was talking about other artists, so we're at a table next to two other guys who are like infinitely better than me at that point, but they can't deny the magic of what she brings to our team. They're all nice to me, even though they would normally look at me and go, "Puh." So I've gotten to learn a lot around her, even though she says she knows nothing about comics.
I really don't. I just
The thing
but you understand what a bunch of basically grown kids would enjoy.
All sizes, all sizes.
As Rune said, if I was at a con and saw a sandbox, I'd be like, "What the hell?"
Well, see, because this thing is like, if I was a pro and if I was in the next booth over, right? I'd like look at my staff people and go, "Okay, guys, I want you to pull down that wall." It's like, why? It's like, because I want in the sandbox. Like, but that's not our stand. It's like, no, I'm going to be in the sandbox. Just redirect the line this way. And I would like, in matter of point. I don't know if you guys have this plan, but I'm just going to throw this out there. Legos.
Yes.
Get like a ball pit with no balls or like a playpen, and just get Legos, pour them in, let them go. 1,000,000 kids.
I can tell you guys, I have 1,000 ideas. Like like the guy I brought, it was because it's before Halloween. It was a small one. It was local, but I brought some lights, battery operated ghost lights, and I put them on our table.
Those weren't
Sweet.
fair.
Listen, the guy next to us who is a writer and had like the vampire series, he's like looking at me, he's like, I can't believe those. Where did you come up with that idea? I'm like, Amazon. Like I wanted something.
But they weren't fair because they were one of those LED series of
Yeah,
lights.
they're really cool.
And all the kids were. If they got stand up, they were really stuck on the lights, which were like hypnotic almost.
And then I had lollipops at the end of
Well, I mean,
I had it all set up.
well, I mean that's the best part of it is I as you may have noticed, I'm a tabletop gamer, but I'm also a hyper nerd because I'll do anything. So I have LARPed before, and I know lots of people who had more money than God, who always looked really cool. They had all kinds of makeup and fancy stuff, and I never had any of that because poor. But my favorite time of year is Halloween, upcoming. It's about 7 days, right? So I would hit Spirit Halloween, and it's like, isn't Spirit Halloween like a kid's store with all kinds of stuff? It's like, yes, but for like a week, I will have the best LARP costume because I'll just show up in like a cape with fangs and little hand gloves and like
absolutely.
because
what other kind of gloves are there, Joe?
I'm sorry, you're a building. You can't wear a costume.
I just need to point out
hand gloves. I'm on board with that. What other kind of gloves were you getting there, Joe?
Well, no, I mean I kid you not.
So I'm gonna interrupt the degeneracy that's about to happen and say Rick Piper in the chat. Rick Piper says she thinks outside the sandbox.
That's right.
That's
right.
In matter of point, 1 year, my mom had just been in the hospital because her lungs were all full of fluid. Because my mom, any story about my mom has to have a bad thing with a good thing, of course. So she missed Halloween, but when she came home, I had been to Spirit Halloween, and I had brought her a full set of 10 green, like rubber witch fingers. So this year, my mom's gonna have little green fingers to wear with like little clawed nails.
Oh my god, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Still
my mom and I
haven't
are
gotten
big
any
kids.
legs though.
No, I was telling my friend in England, Allison, that I either want to get my mom some slippers that are like monster feet and just stick them on the end of her knees, or I want to get some big, like really big socks, like with multicolored stripes. Stuff them full of batting and just attach them to the ends of her knees, let them dangle out the front of the chair.
You're missing a great opportunity here, Rune.
You mean to get my mom actual legs?
No, you're missing a great opportunity. You get some mannequin legs and some fake blood, right?
Okay.
And you attach the mannequin legs
right.
Oh God, no. To the chair, and you have them set up to where they're they can easily be yanked off, and then you guys have a spat in the middle of trick or treaters coming up, and you rip her legs off.
Yes. Because the thing is, I've threatened it before. I've threatened people in front of people. I've told mom, I'm gonna rip her legs off, beat her with the wet end. My mom used to threaten me with this. So it's obviously just making it manifest. Rip her leg off and be like, I'm gonna hit you with it.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, imagine nobody's expecting that on Halloween.
Well, that's the thing. Is one time before the recent troubles, when my mom was doing better, we used to have more ready access to transportation. So mom and I would go down to the nearby downtown, sort of the Fred Meyer strip mall food place, near the bank, because there was a used bookstore. Because we're hyper nerds, so it's like, yes, we're gonna take a bus, go downtown, walk around, and go to the used bookstore. That's an afternoon. And someday, one day there was some little asshole, and you could tell he was a little asshole because of his presence. He wasn't just curious; he was being shitty, right? And he looks at my mom and says, "What happened to your legs?" Right? So, without thinking about it, I said exactly what. We've used the joke before. I got in trouble for it as a kid, or at least it became a story of lore. I looked at him and said, "Oh, we ate them," and he had that expression of mute horror, as if he thought for a minute we might have.
Good. Dahmer party of 50,
yeah, exactly.
But anyway, we're just over the hour mark, so I do want
Yep.
to open it up and let our guests give a one final push on their book, cover anything that they might not have been able to get out in our inane ramblings. So with that, go ahead, guys.
All right. Well, listen, guys, check out Fudge 2. It's on Indiegogo. The campaign ends, I think, November 8th. We have several tiers to fit everybody's budget. And it's a great story. I don't know, Chris, what do you want to say?
Well, okay, so I'm losing it. It's been an hour. My cold medicine is dying. So let me say this: Cluster Fudge is part of what will ultimately be a trilogy that will mark a major event in my career in terms of my comic book growth as a creator. And I hope that you all will participate in one way or $5 on up. And I look forward to hearing from everybody and getting it, because the book is done. 3 is actually almost done too because of the way that I do my stuff. But I'm just dying to get this out. We only have, like she said, a couple of weeks here.
So I'm sorry. I need to butt in. I clicked on the Let's Get Physical tier real quick, and do you like the feel of holding 10 inches in your hand? This is the tier for you. And now all I can think of is the Aerosmith song Big 10 Inch. So thank you. That's going to be stuck in my head for the next 3 days.
Well, I mean, everybody aspires to hold 10 inches. Now you know what it's going to be like.
Some of us are quite happy with
as you can imagine, with so much attention on Cyclopean, she's having fun with the concept of a mature book so she can play with the tier names.
I had a good time with those. With naming them, actually.
You can tell the one package is called Retail Package A.
Yeah.
Retail.
And the Lorenzo package. Lorenzo.
Now I'm curious what Down and Dirty says.
Down and Dirty.
So am I. I'm kind of scared.
What do you mean?
Okay. No, the description on that is fine. So for $30, you can crank it up a notch and get the original thrill ride featuring the all pencil cover with issue 1 and the fantastic issue 2.
Yes.
You changed that.
Yes, did I?
Yes, that wasn't what I wrote.
I like how everyone's overlooked the online quickie title for the digital. Like how everyone just glossing over that.
What, that I've had a quickie with Cluster Fudge? Yeah. Well, yes, I have. And I have to tell you, it feels pretty good.
What's the description on that one?
Online quickie, guys.
And we do appreciate it.
Always. We definitely appreciate you guys coming on. And
yes, thank you so much.
And telling us all about Cluster Fudge and allowing us to ramble at your general direction.
It's been fun.
So
I don't know. What do we do now?
We say good night.
Oh, good night.
Yeah. Ayrton, get us out of here if you would, sir.
Okay. Good night, everybody.